Hi, my name is Kaya. I'm in the middle of my 30s and from Berlin, and I've been contemplating to make my own podcast for quite a while. And since I know that I have less time the next weeks or months, I thought this would be a great time to start a podcast. I don't know what's wrong with me, but well, here we are. I hope you can understand me. I hope this is not too confusing what I'm doing here. I made myself some show notes and hope I stick to them most of the time. And yeah, well, I will link all my projects in the show notes and the patterns so you can find everything you need. If something's missing, let me know. And apart from that, what else is there? Well, I don't have a schedule yet, so I hope I podcast regularly, but we'll see. Yeah. And well, I have an accent because English is not my first language, but German. But since I'm only knitting with plant-based yarns, and most of the people that I know that knit with plant-based yarns are all over the world, I thought it might be easier to exchange ourselves in English. But of course, you can also watch my podcast if you're not knitting with plant-based yarns. Yes. Yeah, I usually make myself a monthly plan what I want to knit, to have a rough guidance, and well, yes, don't always start new projects because I have quite a lot of whips and UFOs. Yeah, but I don't always follow it. It's just a rough guidance. And what I like to watch is Rainbow Ange, aka Jan Jan's podcast, and she's always doing a monthly dice roll, and the dice roll is giving some prompts, and that gives me some ideas on which whips I can work or UFOs. Yeah. My last finished object, well, this will be my first category, if I have any, has been quite a while ago, but I thought since this is my first episode anyways, I can just show it to you. Well, at least I can show you 50% of the finished object, because the other 50% are already with my mom, because I gifted her for her birthday the Springbound Mitts by Erika Heusser. It's not washed yet, but I only gifted her one because I wasn't sure whether they fit her. I knit them out of Pleiades, a vegan yarn, which is by the company Vegan Yarn. And the colors are Yakul, which is the red-orange color, and rose quartz, the light rose. And I dyed the blue myself because I didn't have any blue and didn't want to order from Canada or any of the other dyers in the US or UK that also dye on the space. Yeah. It fits me as well, but it also fits my mom. So here we go. It's not perfect, but it's one of my first color work projects, so I'm still fine with it. So yeah. Well, that's all for now, but I hope one of my whips will be done soon. Well, it has to be done soon because it's a test knit, which is the Striata top by Breibellie, Isabel on Instagram, or Breibellie. I don't know how to pronounce it because my Dutch is quite limited. Yes, it's a top-down yoke shirt with some really great increases in the front, well, everywhere, honestly. A dominant. That's not a cuff. Well, you know what I mean. I'm missing the word right now. Yeah, and broken rib all over. I'm almost done. It's my first split hem. I'm done with the backside. And only need to finish the hem on the front. And then it's all done and ready for a wash. The yarn I'm using is Alino by BC Yarn, which, let's see here, it's 50% cotton and 50% linen, and the color I'm using is 26. The design is made for fingering weight, but since I'm using the plant-based yarn, I swatched with a few sport weight yarns I have in my stash, because last year I had the smart idea. I buy some single skeins to see for future knits and see whether the swatch will work for design. And this was the first time I could use this. Yeah. The yarn is quite rough on my hands, but once I finish it and washed it, it will be softer. Well, at least the swatch was softer. And it's a rather fitted knit, which I knew before. I'm not quite sure this is something I like in the end and wear a lot, but I guess this is the chance to find it out. And I guess next time this is done. I hope it has to be done because the deadline is this week, this Sunday, and today we have Wednesday. The next pattern, sorry, I'm having a look at my show notes because otherwise I would be totally lost and this would be even more confusing. The next pattern or project I have is, well, it doesn't really have a name. I call it checkerboard pullover. It's a pattern by Lana Grossa, a German yarn brand. Has this checkerboard pattern and uses 11 colors and is knit in pieces. I'm not quite sure. I will regret this later on. Yeah, and it's usually knit in 11 colors, but I added a 12th one because I'm quite tall. I'm 1.80 meters, and I'm not quite sure this will be enough, so I added a 12th color and didn't do the checkerboard pattern here because, well, we see whether I like it. Let's see. I love the color combination, and at least I've woven in some ends. Let's see. This is my desk project, so whenever I'm watching a video or taking a break from some programming or which I'm trying to learn, I knit on this project. I'm on the front panel right now, in the middle of a row. Now I know how this happens to other podcasters. Yeah, and just every now and then I knit on it. I added all the stitch markers. You can hardly see because sometimes I just don't look at what I'm doing and then I knit instead of purl. So if I have a stitch marker in between, I notice something's changing and I should pay more attention. The next whip is a large one. It's one of my oldest. I started knitting and crocheting when the corona pandemic happened and I needed some input and something to do. And my mom taught me the basics of knitting, and I learned crochet by myself with videos. So, and one of the patterns I saw quite early was a pattern by Dedri. which is Look at What I Made. And she designed Sophie's Universe, which is quite a popular crochet pattern. It's huge. I'm done with the basic part of it. Well, the square. Seriously, I can't show it. It's too huge. But and I used different color combination than the original. It has some kitsch, but I somehow like it. And yeah, it's supposed to be a square. Mine is not a square. It is a square, but it's not straight and not lying flat. So I don't know whether I can solve this problem. I'm not going to frog anything at all. But since it's not quite large enough for me, because I want to put it on my lap and my feet, I decided to use one of the extensions of the pattern. Here we go. And add some squares to it all around the blanket. And there are two options. One of them is called, I don't know, and the other one is called the Jack Square. And I went for the Jack Square because I don't like the typical look of a granny square. And this is more, doesn't have the typical granny square look. I already did quite a 5. Here we go. And my plan is to use leftovers I have. I might have to get some more yarn, but I prefer to have a blanket that I really like and wear. Yeah. And of course, no ends have been woven in. Oh, and the yarn. The yarn I'm using is Stonewash by Schreepjes, which is a Dutch company. I really like the color and the way the yarn looks, but it tends to pill. So I don't think this is a big problem with the blanket. But I have some mittens or mitts. I don't know right now. I always mix it up. Mitts. I have some mitts. And they tend to pill quite a lot. So, well. But it's nice to crochet with it. And I really like the colors. Yeah. My next project, I'm not missing that much anymore. And as usual, no ends have been woven in. Is the Cécile top by Paula Strickt, aka Susanne Müller. Oh. It's a really lovely pattern and really well designed, but I don't really like the size range, and I do fit in the range, but well, I still theoretically I don't want to knit some stuff that doesn't have a large size range. But sometimes I'm not that consequent and do it. So, well, some room for improvement. I did not do any major modification except that I added some rows on the straps because my row gauge was off as usual, because I have quite short stitches. Yeah, apart from that, I'm almost done. And the yarn is Mandarin Petite by Sandnes Garn. and the color number is, well, 3528. Orange, red orange. I don't like orange usually, but this orange is quite nice. What else is there? Oh well. Somehow the crochet bug really caught me in the last weeks again, and since all or most of my projects I'm working on right now, in which I want to finish, I have only stockinette in the round or broken rib in the round, which is even worse. Well, I like the finish, but I don't really like to knit it. I thought, well, I need some small gratification project, and well, decided to cast on some washcloths, and the pattern is a half double crochet herringbone washcloth or herringbone half double crochet washcloth. I will link it, and has this really nice texture. I just have a small hanger, all ends still there as usual, and the yarn I'm using is Capri Eco Cotton by Loops and Threads, which in the color Flamingo Splash, which is really fitting, which I got from my friend Gina last year when we made an advent calendar for each other. Yeah. And well, I already made 2.5 washcloths, so here's half a washcloth. Yeah, it's really nice because you don't really get the yarn here in Europe, and it was nice to try something else, even though it's made in Turkey. Well, and I really need some washcloths, so yeah, that's it. Yeah, and the last more or less active whip are some socks, which I started with as a small knit along with my friend Gina and Nora from Einfach Nora and Genius Knits. And those are the solid stitch lines socks, and our plan is that or at least Gina learns how to knit socks. She's further down the socks than I am because I haven't touched it in weeks since I started the test knit. And yes, this is how they look so far. As you can see, they are toe up. I usually knit my socks on 2.25 millimeter needed because it's a cotton yarn and cotton-based yarn, and they tend to grow. I always use magic loop because I don't like DPNs at all. At least for socks I always use magic loop and Chiagu needles with a fixed cable. And the yarns are Lana Grossa Meilenweit Solo Cotono Spray. She has those lovely packets which doesn't exist anymore, but Lana Grossa started a new vegan sock line, which I really like. And the other one is this gorgeous color. Oh, I find it's gorgeous. By Gidifra. It's called Lana Mia Cotono, and the color number is 2316. I link it in my Ravelry project. Yep. I promised the others I continue with the socks once I finished my Striata test knit. I hope I do so. Yeah, those are all of my current more or less active whips, or with the ones I'm planning to work on in the next weeks until I podcast again. And I did not really buy I did buy quite a lot of yarn this month, or the last month, But I have a pattern in mind for all of them. So the first one, well, first of all, I just ordered some yarn yesterday for the next test knit, which I can show you once I started the swatch. And it's not a secret test knit, so I can share some stuff. It's for the spring version of Making Stories next year. And I'm really excited because the pattern looks lovely. And yeah, and since I found quite a good offer, I also ordered some more yarn to knit a first sweater for my boyfriend. He doesn't really want it because he doesn't want me to put all the effort into it. But I know he likes the result and he's really knit worthy, so he gets one. And then beginning of the month, I went to the west of Germany with my boyfriend, and then we drove past Hanover. And I know there's a Flauschecke in Hanover, so we did a small stop. And since I've ordered there once when I knit a cardigan for my friend's wedding, and I really wanted to go there all the time, and that was a perfect opportunity. So I got some more Lana Mia Cotono by Getifra, which is a sock yarn. Really soft, nice to work with. I like the color palette. Just blue, some white. I guess those will be socks for my boyfriend. Then I got 3 skeins of Make a Tweed by Rico Design, this is a really thin thread, and as the name says, it makes a tweedy fabric out of the project you're doing. I don't know which yarn I use it for yet, but I guess most of the time I always find something to do with my project, or with a yarn in my stash. I always find a project, mostly. And then I got Falesia by Rosarius 4, which is a mixture of cotton and bamboo viscose, which is really, really soft. I love the blue, and it's not 100% blue only, but also, well, some lighter blue, which is still blue. And it comes in 100 gram skeins, boards, and it's quite affordable, so it's really, really soft, and the price is good. And the last one, which is not that affordable, but I haven't used it yet, sorry for the noise, and I always wanted to try it, and I love especially one of the colors I got is Trio 2 by Isaiah. Oops. Way around. And I got bottle green and linen. And what am I doing? I want to knit an Everyday Tea by Susanne Sommer. Out of these 2. Oh, I don't really know what I knit with this one yet. I got 3 skeins, and it's somehow a sport weight, something between fingering and sport weight. I really want to knit summer top out of it, but I'm not quite sure which one yet. And those are all of the acquisitions, which is more than enough. So what else there? I do have some plans, so I want to finish the Striata top this month, and also the Cécile top. I want to work on my socks and finish those washcloths, so I can check something off my list. And they are really nice and handy to take with me, and I don't need any pattern for it. And then Genius Knits and Einfach Nora and myself, we want to knit the boxy, so I really need to swatch for that. We've been wanting to make it for quite a while. And I had some yarn already in my stash for a different project, and then I went to Berlin, which is the local yarn store, and saw they have a boxy out of their Lino Muka base, which is their own linen yarn, and really liked it. It's knit with 2 strands, and this is the colorway Peony. No clue how to pronounce it. And my plan is to so I bought some more skeins of the same colorway I have. It's a different dye lot, but I don't think it really matters if I knit with 2 strands. And instead of my original plan, I knit the boxy with it once I've swatched. And apart from that, I want to swatch for my test knit, add some squares to my Sophie blanket, and as usual, those are way too many projects, but I like to make plans. It doesn't really mean I stick to them, but well. I started, there's Rainbow Angela always does a 12 cast-ons, serious project. So from Christmas to 6th of January, something like that, you can cast on as many projects as you want, that you want to get on the needed, which you always wanted to knit. And you can also cast on less projects. And I like the idea because I have so many things I want to knit and quite a lot of yarn in my stash, and it's not always on the needed. So one of the projects that got on my neededs is the outline tank by Jessie May Design, and I got this far. It's a lightly speckled linen cotton base by Punk Rock Unicorn in the colorway Party Kicks. This is a label, and yeah, I like the fabric, but the problem is it's too large for me. I don't like how large it is so far. So I think I didn't do a swatch, so I measure my fabric and then I cast it on a second time because I really want to wear it. Would be a nice basic. Yeah, those are all of my plans, except that I will attend my first yarn festival this weekend. So I visit Einfach Nora in Kassel, and we go to the Wollfestival Kassel, and I'm really excited. I don't have a budget yet, which it might be dangerous. Let's see. I have some ideas, but it also depends how many sellers have vegan yarn, so well, let's see. Anyhow, thanks for watching. I hope you liked it and it's not too confusing and all over the place. And yeah, let me know if you have any comments, critique, or want to know something else, and see you next time.